YouTube, what's happening? Welcome to Brainsmasher's Metal CD Nerd Corner. If you're not a nerd, if you're a false, don't entry. Chillaxing down in the bunker. We're getting back into the collection again tonight. Back into the vaults. A kind of unremarkable stack here. I don't know. I'm just not feeling this stuff so much. Come winding down the end of a 4-day weekend here, where I listened to pretty much nothing but Return to Forever and Omen the whole time, and that's all I want to be listening to right now. So I did spend a lot of time reacquainting myself with all of this stack so that I can tell you about it, so that you can care, so that you can listen to it, and if it does something for you, there you go. You're welcome. In the background, I chose to pick something. I don't kind of explain why I chose this. This Empty Flow, Magenta Sky Code. This pile is like a lot of kind of knuckle dragging, gory stuff, and I just kind of felt like playing something against the grain. Yeah. So this is like a really washed out, gothy kind of. They were a metal band for a minute, I believe, but they turned into like a kind of a Cure worship, mopey, shoegazy kind of deal. Avant-Garde put this out? Yeah, Avant-Garde music put this out. I've had this in my collection forever and ever and ever, and I kind of like it. So there you go, dreamy, washy kind of stuff. What year came this out? The packaging on this is kind of ornery. 1995. So yeah, kind of ahead of its time. I believe this is kind of a rarity here. Okay, so we're getting into the late middle of the G's. So we're into the goats and the gods and the gores. So let's get started, shall we? So kicking off the goats is Goat Christ. This is a split with Embrace of Thorns, and this is 2 demos from 2004 put together for your convenience by Black Plague Records in 2006. I first heard Goat Christ. I was up in Chicago filming a live DVD for Knockmistium. Krieg played, Bloodstorm played, and then the after party was Mike Meacham from then. What was his label called? He ran a label. The name is blanking on me right now. Anyways, Mike Meacham plays in Loss, and he was DJing that night. Like the after party DJ kind of thing, which ordinarily I wouldn't give a shit about. It was just like an excuse to kind of stand around drinking beers and talking to friends and stuff. And he played something that was fucking utterly disgusting, filthy, raw, and like, I don't know. You could say it was like a poor choice for a DJ to be playing at an after party at a club in Chicago, but it's the most fucking raw, disgusting, underproduced, filthy goat metal I'd ever heard at that time. So me and my buddy, we were like, what the fuck is this? This is awesome. So we walked up to the DJ booth and met Mike. His first Loss demo had just come out. He brought copies up to give away to friends. Anyways, he said, this is Goat Christ. You need to check out their demo. I'm blanking on it right now. Concubine of Antichrist. So Goat Christ are from the US. Just kind of an unremarkable, like, in retrospect, pretty unremarkable, just, you know, run-of-the-mill. I don't know, for today's standards it could be fucking amazing shit that comes out on Total War X or some shit with an OBI strip, but I think all that stuff kind of sounds like a lot of this kind of shit that came out 10 years ago, 16 years ago now. But at the time, in that very moment, when black metal had just done everything that I thought it could, it got really, really ugly and disgusting and filthy and minimalistic, and Caveman and Goat Christ was one of those bands that really, really struck a chord with me for that time period. Embrace of Thorns are a Greek band who got a lot better than this demo was. This demo is called Stench of the Deceased Martyrs. Typo on here. And it is, it's kind of like blasphemy kind of shit with actual riffs. It's whatever. I don't think I've even followed through to listen to much more Embrace of Thorns than that. But from what I understand, from what I hear and have heard, they got a lot better. But so next here, this is like embarrassingly, I don't know. There's nothing like this. Goat of Mendes. This album is called Hymn to One Ablaze. I might have picked this up at a Cheapo Records. Look at this band photo. Damn. And like, this is just strictly nerd shit. Man, I just marvel at the shittiness of the artwork on here. So Perverted Taste put this out in '96, but this is the Modern Invasion version of it. Just look at how, man, back in the '90s, the music was good and the packaging was awful. Fucking just wretched. Why would you fucking do this? From the little reading I've done, it sounds like Modern Invasion kind of like took the reins on the packaging design on a lot of this stuff, but like, after looking at this stuff, why would you fucking buy a copy of this? Anyways, I picked it up for a couple of bucks at probably Cheapo 10, 15 years ago or so. Because the name, I thought it was something that was good. I'm not saying this is bad by any means. I'm just kind of giving you like my state of thinking based on looking at this fucking thing. Invasion is a label who sometimes put out some pretty good stuff. But they have a lot of just absolute shite in their discography as well. So it's kind of a fun, like, crapshoot. Invasion, well, yeah, you got my $6. Anyways, this is a German pagan metal band, kind of black, kind of just whatever. Just, I don't know, not like traditional in any sense, but I wouldn't say it's just pagan metal. Let's just call it that. It's pretty melodic. Some riffs are really, really good, but then there's these like spoken passages. There's some clean vocals that just have no fucking business being anywhere on a record that you would actually listen to. So like there's just tons of elements on this album that just are not working. They're conflicting with one another, making this like a really challenging listening experience. So pick this up for sure. Don't miss out on Goat of Mendes. Next, our band is Goat Lord. Distorted Birth, the demos. So these guys just forever lived in infamy from 1987 until somebody decided to pay them some attention back in like 2007, somewhere around there. People started to clamor and kind of get these demos reworked and reissued and back into the loving arms of losers like me. So Nuclear War Now had a lot to do with Goat Lord kind of coming back to the forefront of a lot of this stuff. The demos are really, well, okay, all of Goat Lord's material is really, really primitive, simplistic, kind of poorly recorded. Just their style was unmistakable, and they were really innovators for the time. They were an American band out of Las Vegas, and they were kind of one of the first bands, and I think this is why they got reissued and kind of brought to the limelight again. They were one of the first bands who really played, like, they really started adding just a morbid and morose and like evil sound by slowing it down and incorporating some kind of more diverse elements to their sound, rather than like coming out of the era of like Venom, where you were basically playing like a faster Motorhead and talking about Satan. But Goat Lord were one of the first bands that actually kind of tried to start sounding more ritualistic and depraved and just sinister. And they pulled it off sometimes, and it has this charm about it where it's super like childish and amateuristic, but it has that charm for that time period, and it's just kind of a step back in time. Anyways, the label that just put these out, this is a double CD. I don't know if I showed that yet. There's how primitive and awful they were. I like Goat Lord enough. Well, I got another one here. The demos are just kind of something you gotta have. You might as well pick it up. These are a lot of fun. I actually do listen to this every once in a while. Just a bunch of lyrics. And then, like, the final chapter of Goat Lord was that back in 2015, the only remaining... Well, the band broke up. They were only active from, like, 87 to 91 or something like that. Recorded a couple demos, and just all hell broke loose. But Joe Franklin, in 2015, he just went fucking nuts and started like harassing kids around his neighborhood, and got into some kind of conflict with a neighbor and like abducted her kid and wound up killing the kid and her, the mother of the kid, and then himself. So just dude was, I don't know, needed mental health, didn't have it, and there you go. So next we have Reflections of the Solstice. So their discography is kind of confusing because this is their only proper album, but some people might think, and I thought until very recently, that they had 2 full lengths. But there's another self-titled version where they took all these songs, redid the vocals and the entire mix on the album, and I think it was just called the self-titled. So that's the skinny on that. But this is Reflections of the Solstice, and it is pretty hard to get past the just obtuse, clumsy, unmistakably shitty drum machine sound on this album. This artwork is so hilarious. There are a ton of different versions of this. Nuclear War Now probably has 3 different LP variants of it. It is kind of a cornerstone that is somewhat important to a lot of American death and black metal. So I don't want to dog on it too much. It was innovative. And I am curious to hear that self-titled version of it, because the drum sound on this is just... Sometimes I'm not in the mood to hear something so fucking clumsy and dorky and weird. It really, really... Like, I can't wrap my head around the fact that so many human beings heard this and said, yep, that's the way it should sound, send it to press. I'll never understand it. So, rounding out, no, we got one more. God Dethroned, the Grand Grimoire. I'm not super familiar with these guys, and I think I remember checking them out back when this came out. I think this came out in 97. We got kittens playing over there on the side. I'm not sure if you can see them or not, but goddamn, they're cute. Got a couple of new kittens to enjoy. So, back when they came out, I was like, I don't know, this is a little too slick, a little too perfect, a little too just like right on the nose. This is like dad death metal. I put this on before I shot this video and listened to it again, and like, it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not something that I ever really reach for. It's just super slick, polished, and just like super riffy and melodic. Well produced. There's just nothing like filthy or grimy about it. It doesn't come across as all that necessarily venomous to me in a way. So I don't know, bands like this, sometimes I reach for something like that. Sometimes I want something that just kind of sounds like nice and succinct and clear and well done, written, performed. But most of the time, this kind of stuff just kind of falls short with me. It sounds a lot more Swedish than I think these guys are from Denmark or maybe Netherlands. Anyways, the next one we got, God, these kittens are cute. I never get sick of them. God Macabre, The Winter Long. If you're not familiar for some reason with God Macabre, you better get there. A lot of times when I hear conversations of like Grave and Tomb, Dismember, all that Stockholm kind of stuff, I always kind of wish that God Macabre were talked about more in that family of, you know, history. God Macabre famously only had one full length. It came out on some obscure label way back in '91, and forever in obscurity until Relapse reissued this in like 2004, 6. That number just left my brain not too long ago. But this is fucking killer. There are a few kind of boring moments on it where it sounds a little amateurish. There's a little... It must have come out in 2002 because this little epilogue thing is written in 2001. You know, it's your standard fare, usual reissue. Relapse does a nice job of this kind of stuff. I really wish they would kind of focus more on reissuing killer stuff like this, but a lot of other labels do that too. But Relapse tends to pick the really, really good ones. But this is awesome. This is HM2, Sunlight Studios, early Swedish death metal. And if for some reason you're more acquainted with the Graves and the Dismembers and Entombed and all that stuff, but God Macabre isn't in your collection, fix that shit right now. The Winter Long is amazing. Timeless classic. This is such a weird record. I'm going to show you this first. This is Golden Dawn with Masquerade. This, I think, is kind of the more proper album cover that you'll find on the internet. This digipack, though, shows this as the cover. Like, I don't get it. You're not going to look this up anyways, I guarantee you. This is pretty good. It's fucking weird. So Golden Dawn were an Austrian black metal band that were in this fucking group with like Pazuzu, Summoning, Abigor, a bunch of other stuff. But this guy is some kind of like orchestral, neoclassical savant kind of deal. Their first record came out in '96, and I don't think I've heard it. I'm not familiar with it at all, so that's why I'm like, black metal? I don't know. This is not black metal whatsoever. This is really, really hard to pigeonhole and categorize. I would say it's kind of avant-garde, but you know what? It's not really all that weird. It maybe has more in common with, like, Dragon Force, in a way. It's super shreddy. There's lots of just, like, bombastic, orchestral, kind of symphonic, really complex and challenging arrangements and orchestration going on. And the vocals are, maybe a third of the time, are your really standard fare, just like normal-ass black metal vocals. There are some vocals on here that I think most people would turn the shit off if they heard it. It's like you tried really hard to write insanely complex music and perform it and record it super well, but then you fucking sang like that over the top of it. Just absolute poor choices all over the place on this thing. But the instrumentation pretty often is fucking awesome on this thing. So, I mean, it's a real divisive kind of album with nothing at stake, really. So, I don't know. I picked this up for about $3 or $4 on eBay a couple years ago. There is a section, there's like this triple harmony kind of section on it, maybe the third track or so, that is just absolutely unbelievable. There's like a great riff, and then it's harmonized with another second guitar over the top of it, and you're just like, fuck yeah, it's even better now. And then just out of nowhere, this like Hammond keyboardy kind of synth comes over the top of it and adds another layer of harmony over the top of it, while all three are going at the same time, and it just fucking obliterates. And that very moment was exactly why I was like, I am buying this fucking thing right now. It came out, if I didn't say that, in 2003. So the discography of the band came out in like 96 was the first album, 2003 was the second one, and I haven't checked out any other stuff by them. I am kind of curious though to check out the first one now that I've given this a listen, because I really don't understand how they could have come out of that Austrian black metal scene and then turn into this so quickly. Next we've got Goraphobia. This is their final album, Apocalyptic Necromancy. I'm not super familiar with Goraphobia whatsoever. Something about the dude, Chris something, he's known as Mesidorus when he played in Absu. He plays in Bloodstorm, but this guy is so into something. I don't know if it's fucking black magic, witchcraft, I don't know. I'm completely ignorant of it, and I'm sorry if you're offended by my absolute ignorance on the topic, but he is so into whatever this is that it honestly, like, it seems like a hot mess. And like musically what he's doing is pretty cool in Bloodstorm. He definitely makes sense in Absu. I felt like Absu kind of had a little bit of that, like mysticism, witchcraft, black magic kind of stuff, and balanced it with the music just perfectly. But sometimes when it comes to Bloodstorm and this Goraphobia, it just gets like, I'm just like, you know what, I'm good. I've got a million other CDs I can listen to. I just don't have the time in my brain to swallow all this stuff at once. I'll give you an example. There's this passage written in here about it. To the 2010, Chris G. The conceptual idea of this album is based on my vision of what stages of unsettling emotional content experienced in meditation and calling rituals to reinvent an afterlife devoid of human ego. I've come up with my own experiments of spiritual dehumanization and created a totem designed to break down and completely exterminate the human material world in parasitic and berserking insurrections. The Ladder of Lights, or Core Current, is a skeletal blueprint of the 9 stages of selfless inversion. The human form becomes the simple mannequin for the nihilistic forms of human emotional mockery. The process is to allow a full takeover, host parasites, and evolve beyond the dead and living standards of universal matter and consciousness. Just like, dude, you are the crazy guy behind a dumpster speaking prophecies to rats. Anyways, this is kind of fun. Came out on Dark Descent in 2012, and then the band called it quits. I'm kind of curious to check out more of this band's stuff, but only for the riffs, if I'm being honest. Here, a bunch of lyrics. I was really impressed with the drum sound on this, but it's kind of like just death metal with kind of old school, kind of street metal riffing going on in a way. It's pretty cool, but I paid $3 for this or something from Dark Descent, and I don't know, it's alright. Moving on, Gorelust, Reign of Lunacy. This came out in 95. This band was from Quebec, Canada. Funny enough, I did some looking into this label. So like, I used to go to Co-op Records, and for some reason they had this like untapped metal section back in like 2005 or so, and there was like sealed copies of shit from 91, 92, 93, 94. It was a fucking absolute heyday, and I used to go in there and just blow as much money as I possibly could. But they had this cutout bin, and I would look through it every once in a while, and I would see this, and I would go, nah, that can't be good, no way. Until finally, like, I picked it up after passing over it 3 or 4 times. I had never heard Gorelust. I didn't know anything about them. I just thought, like, there's no metal band logo on here. They're just Times New Roman all over the place. This might be something like 80s or something. I didn't know anything about it. Looks boring as fuck, but So I looked into this label. New World Symphony is this label that put out like a bunch of death metal stuff, and all of the fonts on all the packaging for their releases is like Times New Roman, super boring, like non-metal looking kind of stuff. It's almost like some kid like had a dad who ran a label called New World Symphony that like released classical music or something, and like he like snuck these bands in the back door or something. I don't know, but it's just kind of interesting. Gorelust does have a metal logo that's on the rest of their stuff. They have done 2 albums. This one was 95, and another one when they reunited in like 2013, somewhere around there, which I haven't heard. But this is really fun. It's just kind of your run-of-the-mill Cannibal Corpse kind of stuff. Yeah, nothing too hugely interesting to write home about. Album cover is so fucking cheesy. Wound up paying $4 for it, like I said, in the cutout bin. I love the idea that it's like, see, there's their logo way back there on the inside, like hidden from Dad. I love the concept of the album cover though. It's like, we went in there and fucking Beethoven was playing piano and we drew a giant pentagram on the floor out of his fucking blood and stuffed his dumbass in the piano. Teach him a lesson. Don't fucking play classical ever again, loser. But they're on a label called New World Symphony. Cool. Alright, which one's next? Alphabetically. Gorgasm. Don't look. Stab Wound Intercourse. Pulverizer Records put out some awesome stuff back in the day. My fella friend Wayne threw this in a box of junk one time, and I've probably listened to it 3 or 4 times. This thing goes for a bunch of money because Pulverizer puts out killer shit. This is kind of one of those like Midwest death metal kind of things where we were moving out of the Cannibal Corpses and shit like that and getting like closer to like Devourment and shit like that. Like Devourment is just like, that's where I stopped giving a shit about like that era of death metal. I could eat my words and go back and maybe like some Devourment. I don't know. That's kind of up for debate, but this is the kind of stuff where I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to Finland and listen to their black metal instead of this kind of fucking rapey garbage. But I put this on and it was pretty fun. Not gonna lie. 2 more. I talked about this very recently. Gorefest with Mind Loss. It's a 2 CD set with Erase, which I will never listen to. In fact, maybe I should just microwave the son of a bitch and just get it over with. But I gave kind of a short review of this, and I haven't been listening to it much. I don't know what it is. I don't have a problem with Gorefest. I think they're amazing. I think this album, in fact, I just fucked up. Here's another thing about Gorefest. I screw up their album titles. They're all like one word, and I just kind of get lost in their discography. This is False, not Mind Loss. Mind Loss is the one with the baby head on it. But the one thing that I will say that I thought was like the number one thing that jumps out about me to me about this album is the vocalist is cranking it up to 150 while everything else is maxed out at 10. And sometimes it's kind of hard for me to listen to Gorefest with dude's vocals going on. It's just like a whole nother level of death metal vocals that I am not used to having to deal with. It's kind of taxing in a way. The music is brilliant. I think the guys are super talented and wrote incredible songs. I'm gonna get Mind Lost. In fact, I might get like the double CD version because Gorefest demos are really killer. That Horrors in a Retarded Mind is really good. I don't know if I've heard all of the other ones. Yeah, here it is. I actually, and to further the confusion between like all the album titles and the boring cover art of these two, which make them kind of confusing, I ordered this from Redstream and they sent me the wrong one. They sent me 3 and they were like, do you want to keep it for a low price? And I was like, dude, there has never been a worse fall from grace in metal than Gorefest. So I'm sending this back to you, and you better send me the fucking right one. So anyways, I need to spend more time with this and get more familiar with this, and I look forward to it, and I'm probably going to get Mind Lost with the demos. But yeah, my takeaway is like those vocals are like, imagine you're going to a show and you're enjoying a band, there's people dancing around or moshing or whatever, having a good time, and there's just this dude over here who is just violently thrashing into everybody, and it's like kind of hard to pay attention to the band up there because dude is just like fucking thrashing all over the place, bumping into me, spilling beer, kicking shoes and cans all over the place. It's just like horrendously distracting to me, and it's something I'm gonna have to get used to enjoy Gorefest. Last but not least, I did also get an LP copy of this in my last collection update, but I didn't talk about it very much. Gorement. This is the discography, if I'm not mistaken, put out by Necro Harmonic and Morbid Wraith. I know Roy watches my videos. How you doing, Roy? Love what you're doing. 19 tracks. This, you know, it's been a long time since I revisited what is on this. Is the Obsequies EP on this? I don't know. I do wish the back here said what releases these are from. Anyways, if you're not familiar, just like God Macabre, Gorement were a Swedish essential death metal band from way back in the day, and they just fucking rule. They really tried to like incorporate some kind of melodicism here and there, and Pat from Ground Zero Salem pointed this out, and I never quite realized it, but there are some striking similarities with Amorphous. I gotta agree there. Amorphous is a band that I've just kind of always struggled respecting, but I've never had a hard time just loving Gorement. I don't know what it is, but brutal riffs, excellent HM2 Sunlight Studios death metal. There's promo tape material on here. I'm sure the Obsequies EP is on here. Into Shadows EP is on here. Human Relic Demo 91 and the Ending Quest full length. You know, it actually looks like Obsequies is not on here. Whatever. You can use the internet and figure it out your goddamn self. How about that? Anyways, do check out Gorement if you're not familiar. They did just do a reissue on vinyl. Old school Swedish death metal that you've got to have in your collection before you go buying the new fucking everything. This is great. I've been really liking hearing this in the background. Check out This Empty Flow, Magenta Sky Code. Great 90s goth. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for subscribing and your continued patronage. I don't get anything out of it really, but take it easy.